Let's get back to ninjaing, baby! Right then, more Shinobi. But wait, I hear you say in that smug tone of yours, isn't this called Shadow Dancer? Or Dancer if you're posh. Well, yes it is. And that's where it starts to get a wee bit confusing. Because we recently had Ninja Fun, didn't we? We had Revenge of Shinobi blasting out of our speakers not that long ago. And this came out after Revenge, so that means this is a sequel, right? Yes. No. Kinda? Oh, fine, whatever. We'll do a timeline, okay? Fine. So we start with Shinobi itself. This lands in the arcades in 1986. A riposte to Namco's Rolling Thunder, if you will. This gets ported to pretty much every system under the sun. A sequel to this, Shadow Dancer, or Dancer, lands in the arcade several years later in 1989, which was again ported to all and sundry. At the same time as this, a brand new title is released for Sega's brand new home console, the Mega Drive. This is a brand new game designed specifically for the home market and is called Super Shinobi in Japan and Revenge of Shinobi everywhere else. A year later, Shadow Dancer, or Dancer, is released on the Mega Drive. However, this is not a conversion of the arcade release, nor is it a sequel to Revenge. After this we get Super Shinobi 2 in Japan, which everywhere else is called Shinobi 3. I mean, the third of what is anybody's guess at this point. So, it really is a mess. None of these games have a consistent creative vision behind them. There isn't a Yu Suzuki or a Yuji Naka driving this series forward. It just kind of gets thrown around amongst folk who come in, they do a Shinobi, and then they go do other stuff. I mean, the guys from the original game moved on to Altered Beast and Golden Axe. Revenge of Shinobi, they went on to make Streets of Rage. The guys behind Shadow Dancer, or Dancer, not that much if we're honest. The things that are consistent across the games are ninjas and killing folk. So Shadow Dancer, or Dancer, ticks those boxes. It also ticks another box we weren't previously aware of that says dog, which is something carried over from the arcade. The question is then, where does this stand against its Mega Drive sibling? Well, very, very far behind if you're Jazz, who has the review. A much inferior beat 'em up to Revenge of Shinobi, he declares. Rather a disappointment, he notes as well. But I think the key comment comes in the playability box. At first this seems to have great potential as Revenge of Shinobi 2, but something doesn't ring true. Which really is smacking that nail right on the head. This should be a banger, this should be a great game. This should be something that iterates on the superb foundations laid down by Revenge, and made into something great. But it essentially just ignores that game and does its own thing. I mean, for example, Revenge switched to a life bar in the game, but here we're back to the arcade style one-hit deaths. It feels like a regression to an early game style, not an evolution that we wanted. In a later interview translated by Schmuplations, link will be somewhere in the comments, the director of Revenge confirms this as a deliberate approach they took with Revenge of Shinobi. One easy example is how in arcade games it's usually a one-hit equals death system, whereas console games will use a life bar. In a console game you have to let people experience the full game to the end, even if they made a mistake. As such, we knew Revenge of Shinobi would need a brand new system, and only the setting/word will be carried over from the arcade. This makes Revenge a game that is leaning away from the arcade, whereas Shadow Dancer is leaning back to the arcade at a time when nobody really wants that on the home consoles. This is reflected in the final score of 59%. It really could have been something special, but this scattershot approach that had been taken to the series did it no favours. With the last game looking forward and this game looking back to the arcades, it feels like a game stuck in the past rather than being able to move forward. But I mean still, ninjas are ace though, aren't they, right?